Good evening, everyone. We're here tonight for the regularly scheduled Public Works Committee meeting of March 30th, 2015. And we have a roll call, please. Here. Here. Here.
Here.
Here. First item will be a motion to approve the minutes of the March 2nd, 2015 Public Works Committee meeting, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Are there any corrections or additions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Before we go to our regular agenda, I'm going to turn to Mr. Micolo for some comments beforehand. Mr. Micolo.
As you know, every year we normally have three, anything with a plug, recycling events at the township. Past year I was working with the county, and they had agreed to have one mid-year, somewhere around June or July. Going by that, what we had talked about, I scheduled one for early in the year and one for later in the year. As you all know, it's a very popular event. It's very hard to get rid of televisions anymore, so people actually hold them and wait for these events. Turns out that county, because of the cost involved with running that program, they have decided this year not to do it at all. So they have bagged it. So now we have a large gap between one we just had and one we're going to have, I'm not sure, September, October.
November,
okay. Too long a distance for anybody to hold the televisions and the other electronic things that they would normally store up. So what I've looked into doing is, I'll preface that by saying we were not allowed to charge for pickup of televisions according to DEP. Since the market has totally dried up on televisions and it is very expensive to get rid of them, they have changed their thought process. So what I was thinking about doing is sometime in June or July, run another electronic recycling event. Last one we did, we took 23 tons of materials in. So I thought what I would do is accommodate our residents. I would run another one somewhere in June or July, and that would cut the distance between the three of them down. They won't have to hold it as long, and what I would end up doing is I would charge only for the televisions, since we're allowed to do that now. But we would be able to accommodate everybody, and they would have a place to get rid of the televisions, because right now Best Buy is going to charging, and virtually nobody else is taking them. Just a heads up. I'll let you do it. If you have a problem with it, you can either voice it now or you can give me a call, because it cost me about $2,500 to run it. I didn't budget for the middle one. I did budget for the first two. So I thought by charging for the televisions, that would easily cover our costs.
What's the fee? What would the fee be?
$10 for a,
okay.
I'm looking at $10 for a 32-inch and smaller, and a little bit more for a larger television.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Klein?
Ed, I don't have any problem with it, but I just want to understand, do you have an approximate cost what this costs the township to run?
It cost me $2,500 total. And they come in, they set up, they pick it up, they bring all their equipment in there, they bring all the manpower in there, and they bring all the trucks in there to get rid of it, to take all the materials, and they process all the materials. So basically, it doesn't cost me anything in manpower. All it costs me is me coming down there and opening the gates.
Okay. I mean, I have no problem spending $2,500 to be environmentally responsible. Do you have any indication that you get people from outside the township?
Last time we did it, I wasn't allowing anybody to bring any televisions in from outside the township, and there was only two people who came in a car. I had a person actually stand out there and check everybody's license. There was only two people from outside the township. They came in there with a television.
And do you have an issue if anybody comes in with anything else outside the township, or is?
I don't check no, I don't check most. I don't check everybody's license.
I guess with the county dropping the program, there's a potential for that to happen and happen more and more.
Well,
So, unless other municipalities around us do the same program.
there are some other municipalities. Cheltenham now has a drop-off site. And I think Upper Dublin has something. I'm not sure what they do. You have to accommodate them a little bit.
Right.
They have to do it at the very least. Like I said, the last time we did it, because I had advertised it, nobody outside the township could come in there. And we checked everybody's license, and like I said, there was only 2 from outside the township. And that's back when it was still hard to get rid of the television, which is the last time we did this thing. So I don't anticipate, it's okay if people outside the township bring electronics in there, because that's what keeps our prices down with the vendor. As long as he can get enough to make money on the deal, then our prices don't go up. Actually, up until this last one, I paid absolutely nothing to do this thing. But now, it's so costly to get rid of the televisions until those small, the old tube type are all gone. It's going to continue to cost us a lot of money.
Well, I appreciate you being proactive about it and for filling a hole where, we have to pick up again for something that got cut above us. Thank you.
Commissioner Hecker?
Ed, I wanted to ask, the charge for the TVs, will that be a change that we'll do permanently moving forward, or is that intended just for this event scheduled in June?
Let's see how it works.
Okay.
If I could cover our costs for getting rid of televisions, then, to run the entire program, and it goes fairly smoothly without too many problems, I would like to continue doing it.
Okay, thank you.
And it'd be only for the televisions. And that's only until all the old ones in the next 3 or 4 years. Most of them should all be gone. And when you once you get back to flat screens, there's some profit in flat screen.
Thanks.
Commissioner Spiegelman?
Ed, first of all, thank you very much for organizing this. I know a lot of folks have been asking if there's going to be anything in between that gap. Just a couple of questions. The fee would only be for the old CRT TVs, right? Not for flat screens, or would be for just the old CRTs. And same with computer monitors. Only the big old monitors would be a charge, not the little flat screen ones.
That's the only two we can't get rid of.
And to the best of your knowledge, I've looked into this. I have not found any place currently that you can drop off one of those without a charge. There is no place anywhere near us.
But I did find 2 places that would come to your house and pick them up. One charges $200, and the other one charges between $80 and $120.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. Oh, one more thing. You only check any IDs of people who come in with those TVs, not just everybody who comes. Okay, great. Hey, thanks again, Ed.
Okay, anything else, Ed? Is that it? All right. We will move on to our regular agenda.
It was an agenda item.
Yes, come on up, Ms.
Thank you. Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. I missed the very beginning, so I don't know if you answered this, but do we know how much the vendors make on what they take? Do we have any figures on that?
What they make
What they make on...
themselves, I don't ask what their profit margin is.
I'm sorry?
I said I don't ask what their profit margin is. I do ask.
Well, if we're paying $2,500, would we want to ask?
You don't have to yell at me.
I'm sorry?
Just ask me a question, and I'll answer the question. And what was the question again?
The question was, so let me rephrase it. So if the vendor is making a profit of more than $2,500, might the vendor not pick up the costs that we have?
No.
So would it not be important to know what profit the vendor was making?
Can't get a vendor to come in here. We used to get paid nothing because there was enough profit in it for the vendor to come in and bring his people in and run the whole program, take everything, and by selling whatever he took in, there was a profit involved there. Now the problem has become there's such a cost for them to get rid of the televisions, and we always bring in a ton of televisions. They charge, and so our cost to run this program is $2,500.
but we still don't know what the vendor's profit is.
And that's what the vendor's profit is.
I think that would be important to know, whether he's making $5, $10, or, I think that would be important to know.
I think you
So-
just explained the conundrum is that the success of the program has driven down the attractiveness of it, so now we're going to have to try and pay to get rid of some of these items for our citizens.
Well, we can only assess whether it has appropriately driven down the profit for the vendor when we know what that profit is. The vendor might want to, make banker's bucks. So what we want to do is we want to know what is the profit and whether there's another vendor that might accept a lower profit and pick up that $2,500.
I've checked with all the vendors out there. There are very few vendors that are doing this right now. I've asked everyone
Commissioner Bowman.
what it would cost if they were to come in and do it, and everyone is far, much more than what this current vendor that I'm dealing with right now is. The one vendor that we had before no longer does it because he's lost so much money the last time he did this event.
Okay. All right. I'd still like to know. I still think that should be a question that we ask, is what the profit margin is. Thank you.
I don't think we generally inquire as to someone's markup, but Commissioner
Mr. Chair,
Spiegelman.
I can speak to that. This is actually something I've looked into. What the vendors make is actually very volatile because it's basically based on the current market value of certain items, which can vary widely, which is why Ed said they had vendors that ended up not making money on things. They didn't plan on not making money. For instance, the material, that green material that you see in circuit boards, right after that big tsunami and meltdown in Japan that destroyed a whole bunch of the factories that make those, the market for recycling those went way up because that stuff became a rare commodity. So it's not something that you can just research what is the profit that they make. It's it's like saying what are gas prices going to be on this day or that day. It's a volatile market. Scrap metal, copper wire, all that stuff. So that's all.
Commissioner Klein.
Yeah, Mr. Lefevre, do we get involved in auditing profit margins for any of our bid out items or vendors that we contract with to supply material, perform tasks? Do we audit?
No, we do not.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, ma'am, at the podium there with your nice tartan sweater. Yes.
Miriam Einhorn, 1175 Timbergate Drive. I'm maybe a bit altruistic, but I know there are citizens groups and sure. There are citizens groups, maybe Rotary groups or Rydell Meadowbrook Civic Association, where we could possibly get some volunteers. Would it help if there were volunteers for the program to cut the costs?
Now, the vendor has his own insurances, and he wants to use his own employees so that if they know what to do, they know exactly how to do it. They run the program start to finish. They're efficient. We have very little backup with the cars. The volume of cars that come through there is tremendous. If you're not efficient and you're not quick and you don't know exactly what you're doing, first thing, somebody could get seriously hurt. Second thing, the backup would be past up Flory Lane, down Easton Road, which would cause some other problems as far as traffic goes. So I allow the vendor to come in with his employees. He doesn't want any volunteer help other than if I want to put somebody out there just to direct traffic, which I really don't need that much of. Our EAC is down below there, usually talking to everybody that comes in, so they pretty much make sure everybody follows the traffic flow correctly. And I would be
okay. Thank you.
Okay.
It makes sense, everything you said. So thank you.
Thanks for your offer. Okay, we will now move on to PW1. This is a master casting agreement, an update with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, PA DOT. Motion to approve the proposed master casting agreement number 0601068 for the next 3-year cycle ending in 2017 between the Township of Abington and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and to authorize the Board President to execute the agreement and Resolution Number 15-018. Is there any comment from staff on this item?
Should we second it first?
I'm sorry, yeah, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Thank you. Any comment from staff?
Just a routine update to the, every couple of years, they update the pricing.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from commissioners? Commissioner Klein.
How does the pricing compare to the last couple of years, or the last contract?
I haven't seen the contract that Abington has in the past 3 years ago, but from past knowledge of other townships, and the prices are all the same for all the townships. I guess over the last 10 years or so, it's probably increased about $100 per casting.
Gotcha. Which is about what percentage?
It's $553.
About
one
20%.
casting, so it was $453 about 10, 12 years ago. You know, so
25%. Okay.
this is about the fourth cycle that it's increased, so it's $25 every 3 years, roughly.
Thank you.
Any other comments from commissioners? Comments from the public?
Laura Lehman, Meadowbrook. Could you just explain what the castings are?
These
Attorney
are
staff.
the, when PennDOT resurfaces a road or reconstructs a road, they have to adjust the valve boxes, or for us, the sanitary sewer manhole castings that are in the roadway that you hit, you know, and they go thump to thump. Well, that's adjusting. This is the price to adjust it to match the new grade of the meter.
Thank you.
Hearing no other comment, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. PW2, Emergency Force Main Repair, North Hills Avenue. This is a motion to authorize payment in the amount of $34,241.53 from the contingency expense account number 0210-200-5299 to Blooming Glen Contractors, Inc., for the emergency excavation and repair to the Kimball Avenue Pump Station Force main sewer that parallels Kimball Avenue near Elliott Avenue, which was completed on February 13th, 2015, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any comment from members of the committee?
We got an explanation.
Yes, go ahead. Can we get an explanation from staff for this item?
This day I was away, but my chief of the collection system had to call. They got a call about the force main, which is the discharge from the pump station, the pressurized discharge from the station. The pipe had cracked, and actually the flow was coming up to the surface, so it was immediate repair. Roger, my foreman, called 4 different contractors, and I think it was a problem with, I think there was either an ice storm pending or an ice storm just happened. A lot of the contractors had all their equipment tied up for plowing.
Right.
So he went to the 4th contractor to come out in emergency, which was Blooming Glen, which we dealt with before. And they were out there for about 12, 13 hours with, I think it was 8 or 9 people, they had a lot of equipment out there. There was a lot of work that had to be done, and fortunately it gets expensive when you have that many people out there. So. But it had to be done instantly. It had to be done as an emergency.
Yes, Commissioner Klein.
And I assume that the O2 account, that's a sewer fund account?
Yes.
Contingency account, not the main general, not the general
Now,
contingency
this
fund.
is all
Absolutely.
sewer contingency fund. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. Any other comments from commissioners? Comments from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. PW3, this is funding for street repairs. This is a motion to spend $100,000 from fund balance for repairs to streets deteriorated due to the severe cold this winter, cold winter this year. The anticipated work areas are attached, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any comment from members of the committee? Any comment from other commissioners? I'm sorry, Tom, yes.
I'm just wondering, what is the timeline, assuming this is approved for the repair work to begin?
As soon as the plant's open, we should be starting in 2 weeks.
Next week?
Hopefully next week, within 2 weeks, though.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Stephen Klein.
Thank you. Hey, Ed, so this is the second year in a row we're doing this. And I guess I would want to know, I'm not sure how to put this. So like last year, we know that we had a lot of snow on and off, and this year, I mean, we didn't have that much snow, but we did have a lot of ice storms, a lot of wet, heavy, cold, wet snow. Or is this something that we should be thinking about going forward in the budget? Or are we still better off handling it the way we've done for this year and last year?
I think we're okay to continue doing it the way we are currently doing it. Up until the past 2 years, the cold and the thaw is what causes us the major problems. Last 2 years, the cold, the frost line was down further than I've ever remembered it being, especially this past year. Last year, we had the same problem with the heavy frost that we were getting and the deep frost that we were getting. And then what happens is frost gets down low, freezes deeper than normal. It pushes everything up. Any weak spots buckle. This year we've had, they actually pushed mud up through many of our streets. So, yeah, I think we're okay doing it this way because prior to this past 2 years, we didn't have this problem.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Members of the public.
Laura Lehman, Bryant Lane in Meadowbrook. So I know that many of you saw the assessment I did, and you heard it at a recent meeting, that we, years ago, in 2006, 7, we had something like 10 or 11 miles of road that we did every year. And then as we progressed down to recent years, we're down to 3.6 miles of road. 3.6 miles of road with 200 miles of road to do is once every 55 years. Now, I know it doesn't work exactly like that. We have some roads that need to be done more often because they're used more often, some roads that are used little and don't need, but that averages itself out a little bit. And so, on average, my road's over 25 years. And for 5 to 10 of those years, it has been in need of care. It's desperately in need of care. We keep hearing from those of you at the dais that if you have a problem, and in your newsletters, if you have a problem, call us. Well, I mentioned the problems over and over, and those potholes are still there. And I just tripped on one the other night, just oddly enough, after I came here and said that people are tripping on them. I tripped on one in the middle of the night, did not fall, fortunately, but it just brought it home again. They're not safe. They're not safe to walk across. My bike goes bump, 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 bump down it. That's a hazard for falling. It is not safe, let alone the fact that this is not a good policy. And we know it's not a good policy. In fact, I think it was my commissioner who is not helping us get these done, but my commissioner who brought it up when first they started reducing it from 10 to 8. And that should be in the budget. This should be in the budget, not coming out of the contingency fund. And frankly, I think even if we had that in the budget, we'd still need more done because I don't think the roads are being cared for. We were out Saturday night with friends, and they said, we're glad you're taking your car because our car is going to have lots of repairs from the potholes we've hit. So, and they guided us through the potholes. They said, over this hill, there's a pothole. Go to the left, okay? That shouldn't be happening. We need to have better standards, and it comes with having a budget that has the right numbers in it. 3.6 miles of road is not acceptable. And we'd like to see that change. But no matter what I do, I can't get an answer, any kind of an answer on that. You all think 3.6 miles of road are fine? I don't think your constituents do. Thank you.
Well, maybe you shouldn't be walking the streets in the middle of the night.
Is that your solution, Commissioner Myers?
No, that's my advice to you.
That's your solution.
That's my advice to
So if the roads
you.
are dangerous, your solution is we shouldn't walk on them at night.
Ed, can I ask you?
One second, let's,
Ed, can I ask you a question? So I know I'll wait till the speaker sits down.
I thought you might want to ask me a question.
I have no desire to ask you a question.
I just want to say, too, in 2000,
Ed, can I ask a question for you?
2009, we were told...
We've reduced our paving allotment in the budget, but the reality is we've had so much aqua work being done in the township that you've actually have, if I remember correctly, some of our conversations have been you've reduced the amount of mileage in road overlay because the anticipation of picking up the road overlay from the aqua work, correct?
That's correct. We've done over, I think last year we did over 11 miles of roadway. This year we'll do over 10 miles of roadway. We've never done less than 10 miles of roadway in
Right.
quite a few years.
So although our budget allotment has come down, the reality is it's been in an anticipation of the amount of roadway overlay that we're doing because of the aqua work going on in the township. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So the figures that the speaker keeps talking about time and time again are just not accurate. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Lehman, you only get one chance at
They
the
are
podium parade.
accurate, and the
No, I'm
roads
sorry,
aren't
ma'am.
being done.
That's enough. Yes, Commissioner Spiegelman.
It's kind of a random question, but just was looking over my notes from our agenda, and one of the stretches that's slated to be done is the 1500 block of Wheat Sheaf. We don't have a 1500 block of Wheat Sheaf. It's a 1400 block. Is there, unless there's a block I somehow missed. Because the 1400 block is always. I just want to make sure, because I would be very embarrassed publicly if there's some block I didn't know about.
If you drive down, you know which one it is.
Oh, the 1400 block is. Let me tell you, on behalf of the people who live on the 1400 block, this is very appreciated.
Totally falling apart.
Very appreciated.
John, clearly you haven't seen the land development application that's coming after this. For the whole 1500 block.
Commissioner Gillespie.
Thank you. I do have to say that whenever I've called in about any kind of potholes, Ed does hear from me, that you guys have been great. You get out there and fill it in that day. So
Our
I think
potholes in Abington Township, in our roads.
in our roads,
are
yeah.
maintained. Potholes in state highways,
No.
we don't have control over.
I know. Thank you.
And they are horrendous in this town.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Tom Heck.
I want to echo the comments of Commissioner Gillespie. The first road on the list is the 2000 block of Corinthian Avenue, and that's a situation that I brought to Angelo's attention less than 2 weeks ago. And so they, along with the engineering department, were out on the site within 24 hours, have inspected the situation, developed a plan, and here we are today with the means to fix it. So I really appreciate the timely responsiveness, as do the residents. Thank you.
Okay. We've heard all the comment. All those in favor? Aye. All right, PW4. This is funding for salt replacement. This is a motion to appropriate $89,000 from fund balance for the purchase of salt for roadways to stockpile our storage facility for potential storms in the 2015 calendar year, which are not currently provided in the budget. And I so move.
Second.
Motion has been moved in second. Is there any comment from committee members? Comment from other commissioners? Commissioner Stephen Klein.
So, Ed, I guess we've chewed through all our salt that was budgeted for 2015. Is that correct?
Yes, we did, and a lot that wasn't budgeted.
Okay. So this is to make up for that and also replenish in anticipation of the winter. And is it worthwhile to buy it now in anticipation that the cost may go up? Is there a fluctuation in the cost for salt?
Yeah, I'd like to buy it this year because I can guarantee the price is going to skyrocket next year because everybody was totally out of salt this year. We were able to wheel the deal and make sure that we kept enough salt in there to handle all the storms that we were dealing with. But I would feel more comfortable if we had enough salt in our dome to handle anything that comes up. Hopefully, we don't have any more this year. You never know. I mean, no more.
Why would you even say that?
That's it. You need to knock some wood or something.
But, last year's December was horrendous. So I would feel more comfortable getting it now, knowing that the sort of shortages that we faced this past winter.
Thank you.
Any other comments from commissioners? Hearing none. Comments from the public? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any comment from the public on public works matters generally? Yes, ma'am.
Laura Lehman, Meadowbrook. Totally outrageous to hear from my commissioner that the roads are going to, in 2009, my commissioner said with Mr. Michelot that we would be on the schedule for 2010. Yeah, I have the emails. I'll send them to you. So we were not on the schedule in 2010 or 11 or 12 or 13 or 14, and we're not in 15 either. We're not on the schedule. So the outrage of having this, picture that the reason we have the reduced amounts is because of Agua work that's going to be done. Agua is not doing, this is from 3.6 miles that we used to be 10 or 11 miles. Agua is not doing that much work, I'm certain. I'm guessing now, okay? But I'd be pretty sure that Agua is not doing half or more of our street work in our township. But if they are, I'll stand corrected. If we should be at 11 miles and Agua's doing 7 of them and we're only doing 3 of them, that'd be interesting to me.
I think the point is that Aqua comes in and does their work, and then they pay the township what they would have paid. They only have to do half the street that they dig up. They pay us for that, and then we use some money to supplement that and do the whole street.
Right, but
So
in order
they
to...
just reported to you that we did 11 miles this year, so 11 miles is what the answer is, at least as to this year.
So you did 11 miles total this year, but how much of it will come out of the contingency fund? So that's what the original conversation was. The conversation was what comes out of the contingency fund and whether it should be budgeted. That was what that item was for. And the question was whether that should be budgeted.
Well, this is coming out of fund balance. PW3 was coming out of fund balance, and that was for
which is what I'm
street
calling
repairs.
contingency fund. Am I misnaming that?
Yes.
Okay, what's the fund balance then? Okay, so in other words, it's not coming out of the budget for the roads. We are not budgeting for that amount. We're taking it, but we're budgeting 3.6, and then we're taking it from somewhere else. Okay, so...
Now, this is a special add-on where we are appropriating $100,000 from our savings, in effect, our fund balance.
Because we didn't budget
Because of a
enough.
special problem that exists. It's not part of the budgeted streets paving that is scheduled and provided for in the budget.
Right.
And thus, Commissioner Klein kind of clarified that.
Right. So what I'd like to see is I'd like somebody to recognize, because I did look at all the roads that, well, not all of them, but I went around and looked at a sampling of the roads that are on the list this year to see if they're worse or better than my road. They're as bad as my road, and some of them are worse. And that's really not an acceptable way to keep this township. You have people that pay a great deal of taxes, and our roads make our neighborhoods look like Hogan's Alley. They look terrible. Our neighborhoods look terrible. They're not safe, as we've heard. I'm sorry, we're not allowed to walk at night anymore. Okay, but it's not an okay way to do business in this township. The other thing is, I know where a lot of the other monies are going, and that's what we need to have a discussion about. Okay, because you're doing a whole lot of things that don't need to be done and aren't part of the general government of your township. Okay, they are part of extras, and they go to people, they go often to a small group of people and not to the benefit of the whole township. So we definitely want to have that discussion somewhere, but mostly we want to have services at a high level. Thank you.
Thank you.
I feel I have to say
Commissioner
something.
Peggy Myers.
On the last line, services on a high level. For those of us that live in Abington, and many of us have lived here for many years, services have always been on a high level. And all of us have heard comments from residents that when they go into other townships, whether snow or just on normal days, that our streets, our street cleaning, our snow removal is superior, not good, but superior to other townships, of course, compared to the city. The services in Abington have always been top-notch. Can we do better? Of course we can do a little bit better. We certainly are always going to try, and that's our job to do that. That's what we do here. But I, for one, have not had a complaint from constituents, I hope that you as well have not, about the services in Abington Township.
Thank you. Okay. Hearing no other comment, meeting's adjourned.
Call to order the Code Enforcement and Land Development Committee meeting of March 30th, 2015. And may I have a roll call, please? Here. Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
First, we have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 2nd, 2014 Code Enforcement and Land Development Committee meeting. And I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. First, we have CE1, Historic Resource Survey Project. This is a motion to authorize the execution of a partnership and scope of services agreement with the Heritage Conservancy for development of a historic resource survey of the township. And I saw we have two of our esteemed planning commissioners here this evening. Are they going to explain it, or Director Mateo, is that? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me move. Let me make the motion first. I'm sorry. And I so move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Sorry, jumping the gun. Thank you.
Lucy Strackhouse, 1050 Dale Road. First, I'd like to thank all the commissioners tonight for having us here to talk about a historic resource survey. I've given you a brief one-page handout on really what the main points of a historic resource survey are. And I'd like to start with a little bit of background information. A couple years ago, we started talking about this at the township, and we applied for a grant through the Pennsylvania Historic Museum Commission. We did not get that grant, and so we sort of put the project on hold while we searched for some funding. And through some conversations earlier, I guess actually late last year, with Jeff Marshall, who's head of the Heritage Conservancy, we found that there was some funding available specifically for Montgomery County. And this is for historic resource surveys. And this money actually derives from a synagogue that tore down a historic, I believe it was a barn in Upper Dublin Township years ago, and there was an actual award made to the, at the time, the Montgomery County Conservancy. And then that organization since folded into the Heritage Conservancy, who is now holding that funding. So in partnership with the Pennsylvania Historic Museum Commission, there is funding available. So we had several meetings with staff at the Pennsylvania Historic Commission, which I'll call the PHMC for short, and the Heritage Conservancy, worked up a scope of the project and what the Heritage Conservancy would be willing to pay for. And I believe there is a scope that has been given to Mr. Lefevre for the township. So they're willing to reimburse up to, they're going to pay up to $20,000 for this historic resource survey. So Kathy Gauthier, my partner in crime here with the Historic Resource Survey, and I have had several meetings both with the Heritage Conservancy and the staff, the PHMC, on how to develop this Historic Resource Survey. But just a little bit more about why we should do this. And it's fundamental, a survey is fundamental to sound preservation planning. It's a great way for us to establish priorities for preservation projects, identify historic preservation properties that may benefit from National Register listing. And the reason that we want to do this is there are economic benefits for this. There are historic tax credit programs. So a building that is listed or eligible for listing on the National Register is actually eligible for 20% in federal tax credits. That's for an income-producing property. There's also now a state historic tax credit program. We're waiting to see if Governor Wolf includes that in his budget this year. We're very hopeful that he will. That's the latest I've heard from the PHMC on that. Some other reasons we want to conduct a survey is it creates a body of background information for project and land use planning. It helps us meet specific environmental review requirements. For instance, Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. And here in Abington, we have an open space, recreation, and environmental resource protection plan from 2006. It also increases public awareness and appreciation for properties that reflect local, state, and national history, and it helps us gather information for educational and promotional purposes. The products of the survey will be an actual survey that we will have a copy of. It will also be a copy of this provided to the state. The Heritage Conservancy will have a copy of it. We will gather the information. I'm going to have Kathy talk a little bit about the process in a minute, and then we will assemble it, give it to the Heritage Conservancy, who will actually produce the end product for us, which will be available for us, and we're also working with the Old York Road Historical Society on helping to manage this process. Are there any questions on anything I have mentioned so far?
Yeah, one quick question.
Yes.
The $20,000 is the full amount of cost for the survey?
We don't believe it will cost that much because we're doing all of the work with volunteers. That's just the Heritage Conservancy's staff time to actually assemble the data and produce the end product.
So there's no cost to the township?
There's no cost to the township.
Thank you. So there's no cost to the township?
That is correct. Okay, and okay, with that, I'd like to turn it over to Kathy Gauthier.
Commissioner Gillespie has a question, I believe.
No, I did have one question. I had it marked right here. It says the municipality will contribute funds. That was number one. And I just thought, wait a minute, it says there's no cost.
Yeah, there are no funds that are required. We would like to use some meeting space perhaps, so that would be helpful if we could have a room to meet and help to train the volunteers, but we have other places we can use. But there are no costs for the township.
May I ask a question?
Yeah. Commissioner
Would we be able to remove item 1 from the survey project?
You had it too.
Oh, you mean the word?
On
Sorry.
On which?
Under the municipality will, then item 1.
Contribute funds. That's
And
the
I
first
also had
one.
it, contribute funds, resources to the, could we remove?
We can certainly request that and have a revised edition prepared. So that's number 1. I don't have it in front of me.
It's in the actual partnership and scope of services
Okay.
agreement, right above the signature blocks.
Page number, that's fine.
Yeah, that's a, but
It's on the signature, it's on the signature page.
Right above Jeff Marshall.
Okay. Yeah, I see that. We'll talk to Jeff about that.
Actually, a better way, since it took about 6 months to get Jeff Marshall to sign this, if the township could add an addendum when, if you approve it in April, and just say, it is our understanding that there will be no funds as suggested in that thing. Actually, we might get some reimbursement for our time, because the cost to the township is actually volunteer time. We're going to break it up into probably wards and get volunteers to go out to match the funds that Heritage is covering, to assist us to make sure this doesn't just piddle out, in 3 months from now, that we have an end product that meets the state requirements. There might be some materials that we need or placards for cards, but I think we'll get, if we do spend that money, we should get that back from Heritage Conservancy. So, but that's what I would suggest as far as if you do sign or execute this support, that you just attach that to the existing proposal, because it's going to take another 6 months probably to get them to sign it again. That's my only concern.
are you comfortable with that, Manager Lefevre?
I was just asking our solicitor the same question.
It's something we'll have a more definitive answer on next Thursday about what is the best way to address this, whether it makes more sense to edit the agreement that's in front of us. Initial it by removing the word funds, or whether or not between now and next Thursday we can prepare a correspondence to Mr. Marshall indicating that we are planning on taking that out, and if he has any objection to that, please let us know. So we'll figure that out before Thursday, but we understand what the board wants us to do, and we'll make sure that gets accomplished between now and next Thursday.
Great. Thank you.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Commissioner Jones.
Thank you. So my read on this is that it's funds or resources. So if we're providing something like meeting space, then we are providing the resources. And if there's no specifically enumerated funds or fund amount that is put in the contract, I would think that, I'm not a lawyer, but as I say, I slept at a Holiday Inn Express last night. It seems to me that we would not be on the hook for any funds if we are contributing resources and there's no dollar amount that's mentioned. As it's written, it should stand.
I think we're probably safer if we take out the word funds and leave in the word resources. Resources can be the building, resources can be some other meeting space, resources can be...
Photocopies?
Photocopies.
Okay.
That's
really
for volunteers.
Or volunteers. So we may want, understanding what the commissioners have indicated from the committee, we're going to try to get that word funds out of there. So there's no monetary commitment on behalf of the township, other than in-kind contributions of other resources.
Thank you.
The other work, or not work, but since after April, I guess it's your 9th meeting, if it is approved, that's when we're going to start recruiting volunteers. And any commissioner, of course, or resident of Abington is more than welcome to help out. But just to spread the word, because when I was at the Meadowbrook Rydell Civic Association meeting at Penn State for their historic Herkness estates, it was very well attended, and people know a ton. So I think this is going to be another very successful product that the comprehensive plan and the open space plan both recommend that the township undertake.
Other questions from Commissioner Stephen Klein?
Thank you. I just want to thank Kathy and Lucy for following through on this. I think it was back... It's got to be close to 6 years ago or 7 years ago when I think former Commissioner DeJoseph brought this first up, and I think Lucy was involved. Kathy, I can't remember, but I know Lucy was involved at that time trying to get something done as far as historical districts and stuff like that. So it's been a long haul, and I appreciate you guys continuing to work on this and bringing it forward. I think it's a great step for the township, given the housing stock and the building stock in the township that should be looked at and preserved. Thank you.
Other comments from commissioners? Ladies, thank you very much. I second that. Thank you. And comments from the audience? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Which brings us to CE2. Land Development LD 1501, Patient First, PF Abington Incorporated, 938 to 944 Old York Road. This is a motion to approve the subdivision and land development application of PF Abington, Inc., applicant for the properties located at 938 and 944 Old York Road. The applicant seeks approval to demolish the existing structure on the site and construct a new 7,151 square foot building. The proposal is for a new parking lot design, site lighting, landscaping, and an on-site stormwater management system. In addition, the plan calls for the relocation of the lot line between the two properties. The properties are zoned in the PB Planned Business District and the R2 Residential District in Ward Number 7 of the Township of Abington. The motion is subject to conditions and waivers as listed on the agenda, and I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I believe we have the attorney for the applicant here this evening.
Hi, good evening. Debbie Shilsky here on behalf of the applicant. I also have with me Carl Wright, who's the developer on behalf of Patient First, as well as our landscape architect, Paul Leopard. And I'm going to be very brief this evening because I know Larry's on a tight schedule to make it for Dancing with the Stars at 8 o'clock. As the chairman indicated, we're here tonight for to redevelop an existing site. It's located at 938 Old York Road. It's the site of the existing Citizen Bank, which has been vacant for a number of years, I believe. Patient First is proposing to demolish the building and build a new building to be occupied by Patient First, generally in the same location. The access points will remain exactly the same. We have previously been before your zoning hearing board back in November of last year to receive certain dimensional variance relief associated with the request. We've received all those variances. The plan that's currently pending before you was slightly redesigned with certain modifications, which eliminated the need for some of those variances. We also were recently before your planning commission last week Planning Commission made a favorable recommendation, subject to a number of conditions, all of which are agreeable to the applicant. In addition, we have a fairly clean staff review letter, which the applicant is willing to comply with all the comments in that review letter. And lastly, we've had several meetings with staff and the neighbors to address some of the issues.
Just to supplement that for the knowledge of others, some nearby residents did take a zoning appeal of the zoning board's decision. The applicant met with the residents, has been addressing their concerns. I don't think there's a formal settlement yet, but what the plans we have before us tonight embody are concessions and agreements that have been made about the lighting for the site and the landscaping for the site. They're based in two primary concerns of the residents were the lighting and landscaping buffer in the back. So they seem to be well on the road towards resolving everything. We'll have more meetings if we need to. The applicant wanted to proceed with the land development application to stay on schedule, and that's where things are. Did you have anything to add to that, Mr. Mateo?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions?
Just a
Commissioner
question.
Myers.
Where is 938, 940, and 944 Old York Road? Can you just give us a landmark where exactly that is?
Citibank. Citibank.
Go ahead. Calico Corners, correct? Originally?
Corners.
Is that before Citibank?
Okay, well now, okay.
Right across the street from the synagogue.
Gotcha. Okay.
Commissioner DePlacido.
Thank you, Director Sanchez. I just had a question about the business. What were the hours of operation?
Certainly, I'm going to have Carl step up, who's very versed in providing any of the background on the use that you might have.
Thank you.
Carl Wright at P.O. Box 1908, Media, Pennsylvania. They're 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day of the year.
Okay. And I was looking at your website, and you have a few locations, and some of them provide pharmaceutical services or pharmacy. Do they provide the same hours as the business?
Yeah, but it's only for patients, so you couldn't walk in and get a prescription if you weren't a patient.
That was my next question.
It's a service to their patients, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., same hours.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Klein.
So how does the fact that there's still a zoning appeal case, how will that affect the land development application? Approval? Some contingency, or is they proceeding at their own risk at this point?
It's a little bit problematic. We weren't aware that there was an open zoning hearing appeal still pending. I'm not sure if it's close to being resolved.
We think that it is. We have had a number of dialogues with the neighbors, and we have a call set up for this Thursday, hopefully to finalize things. We did grant an extension from the briefing schedule with the court, and at this point, we don't see that there's any impediment moving forward. I mean, obviously, the applicant would be doing so at their own risk, but there's nothing that acts as a stay from someone filing an appeal. So we could still proceed with the land development, and we are very optimistic, obviously, that we'll close the loop on this in the very near future.
Do you expect to start construction prior to the zoning appeal being?
Prior to the zoning appeal? I would not suggest that, so.
and I cannot imagine the township would not be able to permit that. And unless the zoning appeal is withdrawn before next Thursday, if the board approves this, we'll have to add a condition that the applicant understands that no permits will issue, and they'll have to agree that no permits will issue during the pendency of the zoning hearing appeal.
So should we make that a condition of the land development approval?
I think we should probably write that in as number 11, unless it's withdrawn. And from what I understand, it doesn't appear as if it'll be withdrawn by next Thursday.
Yeah, I don't think it would be. I mean, I think certainly we'll have a meeting of the minds, I'm hopeful, but by the time we get everything reduced to writing, we get the court to approve it, certainly that's going to take some time beyond next Thursday.
So I guess the question is, in the effort of not changing it for now, in some hopes that things will get worked out between now and next Thursday, can we just make notes that if it's not worked out, that we do have to add the other condition, or I guess it's up to the committee whether they want to add that condition now and potentially remove it if it gets worked out by Thursday?
Is there a problem adding the condition and then
No,
you know, it's
no, because
resolved?
it's something that I think the applicant understands that they're going to have to agree to. They understand that that the board, if it's so decided, could push this off until the zoning hearing board matter was resolved. But moving forward, the applicant understands that placing that condition on it is one that they're going to have to agree to in order to get a vote next Thursday night.
Could you restate the condition that you're calling number 11?
That the applicant would agree that no permits would be issued during the appeal, and we'll get the appeal of the zoning hearing board decision, and we'll get the docket number, so we're very clear about which one it is.
And the question I have, in your settlement talks, are there any modifications that are being made to the land development?
There have been certain modifications, so lighting, as I believe Larry had mentioned.
So what were the issues?
landscaping.
There was a lighting issue, a landscaping issue?
Yes, essentially it was buffering, landscaping, and lighting.
And so what you're doing is you're changing the lighting and putting increased buffering?
That's correct.
Okay.
Other comments from commissioners? Just one follow-up there, Solicitor Clark. We have to have the applicant agree to that condition? Or we can just place the condition to?
Well, you can place the condition on there, but I think with something along these lines, we'd want the applicant to state next, or the applicant's attorney next week to say that they have no objection to that condition being added. This way, and I'm not saying they would do this, but you wouldn't want them to go and, if the matter drags on with the zoning hearing board and they want to start getting their permits to start doing some demolition or something along those lines, you wouldn't want them being able to take an appeal of your decision, so.
Understood.
And the applicant is agreeable to that condition. I do think legally that we could still proceed at our own risk, but as I mentioned, it is a risk, and it's one that I don't think the applicant's willing to take.
And I would never recommend allowing them to proceed at their own risk when they're going to be demolishing things and taking things down and then start building. I think the appeal should play out, but we're basically saying the same thing, just coming at it from different directions.
Fair enough. All right, so do we want to make the motion at this point?
Commissioner Sanchez, are you comfortable with that?
I'm comfortable with that, absolutely.
Because
Thank you.
You're the
Yes.
board commissioner.
Yes, thank you. So I can make the motion to add number 11. Help me out if I mess this up, but to amend this motion so that the applicant, to add condition number 11, that the applicant will agree that no permit shall issue prior to the resolution of the zoning appeal with the docket number to be added. And I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
And the amendment carries. And I'm sorry. Any public comment on the amended motion? On the amendment to the motion, that is.
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. We saw something like this at the Colonnade where, while things had not been settled, the request was to move everything forward as though they had been. And the downside of that to the township is that, without a judge's response to this appeal, you are putting all of the township staff to work accommodating the finishing of an application while the application is still up in the air and the judge hasn't ruled. So apparently, according to the attorney, that's legal to do, but it doesn't seem wise to do for the townships, on the township's behalf. They were asked to do that in the Colonnade, and the issue, of course, is you go through all of that, you make all your agreements, you sign all your documents, you do all your approvals, and then the judge says something else is, and you have to do that work all over again. So I don't think it's in the interest of the citizens to allow that to continue. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't believe we had the option to not accept the land development application.
That is correct. And I'm at a loss to understand how this relates in any way to what's going on with the colonnade. But the applicant has a right to be heard under the municipality's planning code, and I believe the applicant's attorney, was clear that they believe that legally they can move forward. If the board decided to just hold this off into perpetuity, the applicant could have an argument that they could move forward. So consistent with the municipality's planning code, what the township is doing, what the Board of Commissioners will be doing by adding this condition is in the best interest of the township and the residents of the township.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. Commissioner Myers.
Yes. I think that we need to explain that. First of all, this application has nothing to do with the colonnade. This is brand-new construction, not anything that's going on like what's going on at the colonnade. And the 11th condition is that the applicant would agree no permits would be issued during the appeal. So if permits aren't issued, can you move ahead with construction of any kind or destruction of any kind?
No, obviously we would need permits from the township.
Right.
And really the scope of work after approval, there's certain post-approval requirements, the developer agreements, but that's not a lot of work, and the applicant is actually reimbursing the township's consultants for the reasonable review fees. So that's no cost that is out of pocket for the township moving forward. Should we proceed with that and then end up not building anything, it would be Patient First who would be paying that cost, not the residents of the township.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying those points. Any other comments before we vote on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. And general comments related to code enforcement and land development.
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. The code enforcement issue that I wanted to bring forth was how the solicitation laws are being enforced. We just had.
Let me just be clear. You do this every time, and that's really for the public safety.
Well, it relates to public safety, and it relates to code enforcement, the enforcement of the code. Is this a code enforcement meeting? So the question is how the code is enforced.
Is it enforced by the police department, this particular provision of the Abington Township Code?
Okay, so the question is, are you going to hear something that I have to say about code enforcement at the code enforcement meeting? Okay.
Please proceed.
Commissioner Sanchez, just so you understand, the police are the ones that take the permits, issue the permits, and enforce the door-to-door solicitation ordinance, just as a clarification. So it would be justified that this would be in public safety.
This is irrelevant to this meeting,
well,
but I'm going to allow it.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Well,
so
because
persistent in it.
Well, and if you hear what I have to say, the point of what I have to say is that when our codes are not working, our code enforcement and land development committee is where we bring suggestions for changing the code. And if it's not working, that's what we need to do. So in this particular case that just happened, we had the little flyers go in the mailboxes again, in the mailbox flags.
Again, the appropriate place to bring that would be the public safety meeting.
On the public safety portion of it. The code enforcement part of it, as I explained to you before, and I certainly hope this isn't part of my 3 minutes, okay? But as I explained to you before...
Almost done, really, here, because you're in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Is this where you create ordinances? Ordinances are created, developed, and...
Each of the committee meetings.
And the enforcement of them is determined here, how they may be enforced, or if they're adequately enforced.
Criminal codes? No.
Okay. So
if you come to these meetings, how long, and you don't understand? I mean, we make ordinances in every committee.
I mean, we have to have some sort of
every committee,
order.
and there's certain. certain departments are responsible for certain ordinances. I mean, I don't know how many times we have to go over this with
If you want to make a quick point, you can make it in 30 seconds on
Thank
this.
you.
and
Thank you.
Let's be done with this.
Certainly think that what's important here is hearing the issue, and where you hear it, if you make it that difficult, gets
So
lost.
people at home that
in
are
what you're
watching the
hearing.
meetings, though, can't tell when one meeting picks up, one ends, if you're bringing scattered topics in. So it is important that the right things get
But they're
heard.
pretty good at hearing what the issue is,
But we
so
have
that's
an order
what I
and
want
a
to get to.
process. We don't just let everybody talk at once. I mean, there's a way to get through our business here. So, again, go ahead. 5 seconds.
Mr. Chairman, I really have to object to this, because in all fairness, this is what the speaker's talking about is a police ordinance enforced by the police department. Public safety is on Wednesday night, and Chief Kelly will be here. There's no one here that can speak to the enforcement of that ordinance better than Chief Kelly,
I agree with
especially
you.
any of us.
Yep, I agree with you, Commissioner Myers. All right,
Okay,
so we're done.
This is code enforcement.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, and
so moved.
All those in favor?
well, that's not the only issue that I had to bring forth.